Welcome to the 700 Club. President Trump's surprise attack has made it clear he won't tolerate Syria using chemical weapons on innocent civilians. And he's calling on other nations to help stop the slaughter in that country.
Many countries approved the president's action, but a few, like Russia, criticized it. Charlene Aaron has the story.
The U.S. launched 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles at Syria from 2 warships in response to his chemical weapons attack that killed dozens of civilians.
Tonight I ordered a targeted military strike on the airfield in Syria from where the chemical attack was launched.
President Trump at his Mar-a-Lago resort said there was no doubt Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was responsible for the use of illegal sarin gas against his own people. The president had been clearly affected by the pictures of suffering children from the deadly chemical strike.
Even beautiful babies were cruelly murdered in this very barbaric attack. No child of God should ever suffer such horror.
Officials say the missiles were aimed at the air base that was home to the warplanes that carried out the chemical attacks earlier this week, killing more than 70 people. The strike received both bipartisan support and criticism on Capitol Hill. Republican Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham applauded the action. "We salute the skill and professionalism of the U.S. Armed Forces who carried out tonight's strikes in Syria. Acting on the orders of their commander-in-chief, they have sent an important message the United States will no longer stand idly by as Assad, aided and abetted by Putin's Russia, slaughters innocent Syrians with chemical weapons and barrel bombs," the senators said. But Republican Senator Rand Paul tweeted, "While we all condemn the atrocities in Syria, the United States was not attacked." Some Democrats applauded the president's move, while others said he needs to consult with Congress on future military actions. The Kremlin is condemning the military strike, calling it aggression against a sovereign nation in violation of international law. Pentagon officials say Russia was informed before the attack. The president also said, "We ask for God's wisdom," and he said the world needs to work together to stop the bloody fighting in Syria.
Tonight I call on all civilized nations to join us in seeking to end the slaughter and bloodshed in Syria, and also to end terrorism of all kinds and all types.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Well, there was another piece to Donald Trump's speech last night that I don't think any other news organization is going to show you. But we're going to show it to you, and we're going to do that right now.
We ask for God's wisdom as we face the challenge of our very troubled world. We pray for the lives of the wounded and for the souls of those who have passed. And we hope that as long as America stands for justice, then peace and harmony will, in the end, prevail.
I think we can all join with that prayer that we need to stand for justice. There was a line, it was drawn in the sand, if you will, by the Obama administration, and then the Syria crossed that line and there was no retaliation. There was no judgment, if you will, for crossing it. They did this 3 years ago and we blinked, and here they're doing it again, and here we're responding. We need to pray for God's wisdom. And we also need to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly before the Lord our God. So please be in prayer for our leaders, be in prayer for our president, be in prayer for all members of Congress and the Senate. Now more than ever in our troubled world, we need God and we need His wisdom. Well, with us now for more on the missile strike in Syria is our CBN News international correspondent, Gary Lane. And then later, joining us on Capitol Hill will be our political correspondent, David Brody. Well, Gary, tell us, what's your opinion on this? How's the world going to line up? Or are they going to be with us? on this? Or are they going to say, no, you can't violate Syria's sovereignty?
I would say the Sunni Arab states are lining up with us. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt. Those that are against us, of course, Iran and Russia. Also, the Western European governments. I think there's going to be a consensus that Trump will seek on taking future action.
What about Russia on this one? They have a strategic base now in Syria. Do you think they're going to try to protect the Syrian regime, or are they going to try to protect their interests there?
They will try to do both, and I think their interest is to keep Assad in power. That's always been their interest. They've been involved with Syria for many, many years, as you know. But they are likely to beef up the anti-aircraft systems that Syria has. They've already canceled the open skies agreement that they have with the United States. And what that is an agreement where the U.S. can hit targets, ISIS targets in the north of Syria, and not run into interference with Russian or Syrian pilots in the open skies there. But now Russia's saying that's dead. So what happens now, Gordon, if we end up doing another strike? What if we hit Russian troops on the ground? What if we destroy one of their planes accidentally?
Well, there was notice that went to Russia specifically to avoid Russian casualties.
But as you know, accidents can happen, and it could easily escalate. But so...
do they have the military capability to stop our cruise missiles?
No.
Okay.
No, they don't have that capability.
So if
not in Syria, so as far as we know at this point.
If I assume we'll launch further strikes if Assad continues to attack his own civilian, and we'll do that. So if they don't have the capability of stopping it, what do you think would be their next move?
Russia's next move?
Yeah.
Well, look, there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. They've already said that their support for Assad isn't unconditional. And they've been negotiating with Russia and Iran and Syria. The three of them have been negotiating also with Turkey to end this war. But those talks have gone nowhere, Gordon. And the president knows that. He wants to bring an end to this war. We're going on to 6 years now. And nothing has been done to stop it. It's been getting worse. We saw major strikes in Aleppo several months ago, and this thing has not come to an end. Now, the opposition says Assad has to go. We can't have any post-war Syria with Assad in power.
Well, now the U.S. has said the same thing. President Trump said the same thing.
Well, so how do we get him out of there?
I mean, you have to read between the lines a little bit.
Yes.
Is Russia in danger of becoming further isolated from the world community? Are they going to be tagged yet again as some kind of evil empire backing a dictator who wants to use chemical weapons?
I think they already are. I think the isolation is starting, and they see that. They see they're being labeled. Why did they make the statement that their support for Assad is not necessarily unconditional? I think you're going to see them starting to distance. They have not been so opposed to seeing someone else come into power there. It's just who? Who would replace Assad? What kind of government will you have?
Well, that's the open question for all of us. Who would do it? Well, let's go to David Brody on Capitol Hill. And David, what's happening in Congress? What's their reaction to this?
Well, Gordon, it's not every day where you see Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, and Nancy Pelosi, the leader in the House for the Democrats, actually agree. And while Paul Ryan is agreeing a lot more with the president's actions in Syria than Nancy Pelosi, there is at least some agreement from leadership on the Democrat side that, look, that Donald Trump did what he needed to do. Chuck Schumer, the Democrat leader in the Senate, is calling it the right thing to do. Nancy Pelosi is calling the strikes in Syria a proportional response. Those are her words. And so anytime you get any sort of cover from Democrats at the highest ranks of Congress, that's a good day if you're the President of the United States. Having said that, obviously there's a lot of varying opinions all over the gamut up here, as you might imagine. We did speak with Marco Rubio this morning. We were up here early. You know, with Donald Trump, it's always an early morning wake-up call for sure. And so we talked to Rubio about all of this, including the actual specific attack in Syria, and he talked about it being a hopeful and a proud moment. Have a look.
Innocent men and women and children were gassed and killed. And last night, the United States, and they should be very proud of this, our men and women in uniform under the command of the Commander-in-Chief, took action to remove the ability of Assad to do that. Now, he still has other air bases he can use, but this was an air base that they had been using and were going to use again to conduct sarin gas attack, and we destroyed large portions of that air base. So the United States today took away some of the capacity he had to commit those sorts of atrocities.
You know, one of the other questions I asked Marco Rubio was about Russia and how concerned we should be about this whole situation between Russia and the United States. And Marco Rubio looked at me and said, you know, it's about time Russia is concerned more about us than we about them. And so I thought it was some pretty fighting words from Marco Rubio up here, Gordon.
What about the isolationist wing? There seems to be sort of a tendency within definitely the Republican Party to isolate, and even the comment, well, we weren't attacked, so why are we attacking? Is that going to get any traction here?
Yes, and it's already getting traction. We talked about Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer coming out in support, in essence, of the president's move, but a lot of voices up here. Senator Tim Kaine on the Democrat side, Senator Rand Paul and Mike Lee and some of the other libertarian folks up here on the Republican side, all saying, hey, Mr. President, if you're going to declare war, if you're going to do something as it relates to a war type of act, an act of aggression, if you will, you need to come to Congress. Well, of course, we know with the War Powers Act from 1973 that this has been debated time and time again. President Obama didn't feel like he needed it. Clearly, President Trump didn't either. And so there'll be that rigorous debate up here. The question becomes, you know, what is war? What is an act of aggression? There is something in the War Powers Act, Gordon, as you know, about national emergencies, and there's some leeway there. And so this will be a big part of the discussion. The question really going forward is how long does this continue? What's the escalation looking like in a week from now, a month from now, and quite frankly, 6 months and beyond from now? And I think that's the big unknown up here on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I think we crossed that bridge a long time ago with the War Powers Act. And then when the Bush administration didn't seek congressional authorization for the invasion of Iraq, that was sort of the end of it. After that one, I don't see anything going on. What about just enforcing international law? Do you see any response from Congress that when a government uses a banned chemical weapon, sarin gas is absolutely banned, no one has a right to use it in any conflict? What about that argument that we need to enforce international law?
Well, you know, it's interesting. You're hearing some of that talk on the Republican side, but when it comes to the Democrats, especially the liberal Democrats who complain all the time, Elizabeth Warren, for example, and some of the other folks on the far left complaining about human rights and chemical weapons and gases used on their own people, these are the folks right now saying, well, actually, President Trump was wrong to do what he did based on the fact that he needs to come to Congress first. And so they're kind of, in essence, bypassing that issue, at least on the Democrat side. I think the main traction up here will be more congressional authority overall, not as much with international law norms.